Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link together with a thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hello.
How's it going? All right?
Very well. Where are you from, Moop? You've got a familiar accent.
I'm from Hertfordshire, the UK, but I currently live in France.
Oh, okay. Why?
I just started my own business out here looking after people's holiday homes in a Dordogne. So we're south of France, basically. Gave up. Me and my wife were mental health social workers, and we gave that up and then became, gardeners.
Oh, why'd you give it up? It sounds like so much fun.
What, looking after people who are mentally ill?
Oh, yeah, it sounds brilliant.
You get burnt out after 20 years of doing that.
True with anything, but more so with, you know, paramedics and mental health workers, doctors, nurses. I can imagine 10 times the stress, right?
Oh, don't. You come home some nights and you think to yourself, actually, is it me who's mentally ill?
One flew over the cuckoo's nest.
That's it.
That's done here daily.
Hey, 10th.
I want my cigarettes.
No, I'm saying it seems like we do that on a daily basis with anti-flat earthers.
I don't question my sanity in that regard. I question
No, not that part of it, the first part of it. Working with the mentally ill.
Oh, yes, now I understand. Yes, absolutely. So let me get it straight.
It's early in the morning.
It's not really a clock. You tell me it's not really there, refracted up from behind the physical edge that we can't really see. Okay, let's get you some pills.
You're not really looking at your hand. It's not there.
So tell me, how did you reify that ball? What I find really strange is get into the conversation with people. They're so cemented. It's like I'm always shifting. I'm always ready to engage. Think, okay, I got that wrong. Let's look at that. And now I can look at it that way, and that makes sense. It's like these people are just so cemented, and they're rigid. They're not even rigid. They just won't move.
There's something seriously wrong with your mic. So I don't know if it's being twisted in its jack, but it's creating horrendous static.
Is that what I sound like when I'm moving around?
90% as bad as that, I would say. Yes, easily as irritating.
I'll try to stay perfectly still.
Well, you're on your potato mic today, so I don't think it makes any difference.
I'm on the same thing every time.
Well, it just sounds completely different today. Okay. Sounds very different today than it normally does, but anyway, must be a signal thing.
No, it doesn't have any acoustics wherever he's
No,
at.
I know what it is. Watch, I'll show you.
Low signal, just low bandwidth.
Do I sound different now?
Yes, you do. Very much so.
So I had it on the car radio, the Bluetooth.
Oh, okay.
So now I just got it on the headphones. But then my wife can't hear.
I'd go back to the car stereo one. It's fine either way. If you're driving, I'd rather you were on hands-free anyway.
Is this any better?
Yes, it is. Glorious pre-show stuff, Moop. I'd much prefer you did... I don't get annoyed when people do it in the pre-show. That's what this is for. But when people just join live and they've got a horrendous mic and you spend 2 or 3 minutes... it just gets my heckles if it so does.
No, I know. I understand because you're so into your audio. I know. It's like, you've got to get it right.
Well, it's not that I'm into my audio. Yes, I am into my audio. But what I understand at a fundamental level is that most of what anybody pays attention to on YouTube is the sound. It's not the video. Now, don't get me wrong. If you put a lot of effort into a video, yeah, I'm sure it's very much appreciated. The visual spectacular is always great. But it still doesn't alter that, especially in this genre, we're 99% audio-based. There might occasionally be a diagram, but 99% of the time we are verbal. Therefore, hearing what's going on is absolutely the most important thing there is, bar none. And if it sounds, you will have experienced this. Let's take it away from us for a minute. How many times have you clicked on a video and you've tried to listen to the person that's talking, but because there's really loud wind noise, or it's so distorted and overloaded that you literally can't bear to listen to it, and then you just switch off within about 10 seconds. You go, I'm not listening to that, that's horrible. And then you just move on to the next video because there's millions of them, right? Why would you have to tolerate listening to someone's horrible, god-awful, distorted mic? Now, likewise, the opposite isn't really true. You don't get mad praise for having good sound. People just don't switch off. And the ideal is nobody mentions it at all. Nobody notices anything to do with the audio. They just listen to what's being said. That's the ideal. So you don't get praise if you've got good sound. Nobody notices good sound. They only notice bad sound.
No, I totally get you.
So yeah, most of the show I'm spent looking at people's levels, making sure no one's massively louder than anybody else. Things like that. That's all I do for most of the show. But it just means that hopefully the audience retention's high, which I know it is. I look at my stats, that's one of my best statistics in terms of the amount of people that actually sit down and stay in front of the video watching. I've got excellent statistics in that regard. People sit through the videos. Well, it doesn't take long to get them to switch off if you've got some horrible squealing, horrible guest that's making a horrible row. That switches people off. I can see it in the stats. Or have. I don't recently because I keep a very tight rein on that. So after the fact yesterday, somebody left a comment about the excessive views, which I do still think is an error or something going wrong, based purely on the chat feed not being any higher than it would be normally. Now, towards the end of the stream, that wasn't necessarily the case. I think I even made note of this while we were live. I said, oh, well, it is a little bit higher than normal. But I think that is attributed to, if you were a semi-regular viewer and you see the show's got a lot of people watching, you would naturally assume that, oh, I might actually click on that where I was 50-50 and might not have. Do you see what I mean? You just see a higher viewing than normal. So that, I think, brought in slightly more regular viewers than it might have done normally. Does that make sense? So I think that accounts for the slightly higher than usual chat frequency. But it doesn't account for the 2,000 or something stupid thumbs up that the video had. That is definitely an error. But as is, I think, probably 100 or so live viewers, it seemed off to me by at least 100 viewers. And the only reason it was off by the further 50 viewers, if we typically get 150 people watching, say, the extra 50 would have been regulars that saw, oh wow, 300, 250, oh, I might want to click on that where I might not have before. So that's my thoughts on it up until now. Then I got a comment, see if I can find it, which I misinterpreted initially. And the commenter basically said something to the effect of, now the kibosh will come down on you because of your fake views. And I read that to mean somebody has intentionally distorted your view count so that YouTube catch it. Now, I know very well that YouTube collar people who are trying to fake their views, inflate their views or artificially distort their views or likes or whatever. YouTube don't like that. I don't like it for the same reason YouTube don't like it. I want accurate statistics, and that distorts them. But if YouTube see somebody intentionally doing that, they may, I don't know, I'm reasonably well versed with the terms of service. I know you're not supposed to do it, but I don't know what the punishment would be. But the comment seemed to allude to the idea of someone doing it just so that the punishment could be inflicted afterwards, or that's how I read it. So I commented something to the effect of, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That sounds more nefarious than I'd given it credence for. I just thought, oh, just a glitch. But then that commenter made the comment, but after the fact, after I replied, the reply I got wasn't what I was expecting either, because then it got spun the complete opposite way, which was to imply that, no, you've already got the kibosh on you, and this was a temporary lifting of the veil, which I'm sure will be put back down again. Now, that was more along the lines of what people in the show itself were saying. Nah, you normally have 300 people watching, it's distorted downwards so nobody realises. Now, I don't think that's true, but that was the sentiment after the fact. But it was just interesting that it made my brain tick to think, could that be a covert way of attacking somebody? Intentionally inflate their view numbers so that the YouTube police of sorts would come along and go, aye, you're doing something you shouldn't on this channel. I just thought it was an interesting, my expansion on a comment that I'd misinterpreted. I just thought I'd take you through that thought process, merely because obviously it's me. I thought it was interesting.
Anything's possible these days.
Say again?
Anything's possible these days.
Probably just a glitch.
Didn't someone do that, something similar to Anthony like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, when they claimed he was buying viewerships or subscribers. I think whoever claimed that he was buying the subscribers were the ones that bought them for him.
I see. So this is a known trick. Maybe that's why it triggered my part of the brain. In other words, when Anthony mentioned that to me, somehow that's lingering around, not in the forefront of my mind, but somewhere, and that's why it's triggered that idea. I'll have to ask him next time he comes along, because it's certainly not something that I would think about. But if
I just remember because
John, sorry.
It was just when I first started watching your show, there was something about that. So
I do vaguely remember it now you mention it.
It's a very clever way to attack somebody, I think.
Almost as clever as a conspiratard like Anthony could come up with in his own brain, really, as a justification.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like one of those ideas of attacking someone that like no one else would believe you on unless it had happened to them.
Kind of like a sort of love bombing in a way.
Creepy stalkers.
Yeah, people are weird. But there we go.
Well, I mean, the anti-flat earthers are obviously infatuated with you, so it wouldn't surprise me any.
Did you listen to the clip that Mitchell put up in Master B?
I did not. I didn't. Should I have?
Well, it's a segment of Bev, Try Thinking, Talking. Let me see where it's at first.
Is it an audio recording or is it a published clip?
It's an audio recording. And then Brenda is the second recording, digging into the point with Bev a little bit more. It is, let's see if it's where it is.
I can't see it. I'm scrolling. Is it yesterday? Because I can't see it. It must be.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Okay.
Find it. Yeah, it's in the war room.
War room. That's why.
Yeah, it's in the war room. And it's
Mitchell, Bev try thinking. Bev confirms he's not a flat earther. I know he disclaims that he's not a flat earther. He is.
Well, just listen. It's like he has a very strict interpretation of flat Earth because there's hills and valleys.
Is the topology or topography, the hypsometry, whatever you want to call it, the elevation changes of the land prove that it is not flat. That's a very easy statement to say. So if anybody wants to claim flat Earth, then from that point onwards, it's got to be Flat Earth Society that's playing that game, because it's obviously not flat. The first thing I ever say to a flat earther is, how do you deal with the contradiction? And the contradiction to a flat earther is, they call themselves a flat earther, but it's obviously not flat.
You know, when you draw a straight line.
Hold on, there's more.
I can't get away from that. How does anybody deal with that? So I don't really actually think that there are any actual flat earthers, because it's a contradiction, it's a misnomer, and you'd be silly to fight for it. It'd be one of the worst positions for you to ever hold in a debate, because you could be proved false immediately.
Consider Earth as a realm, and not considered as dirt or soil, as the dictionaries try to imply.
There's a second part to this, Nathan. Go to the second one that he posted.
Okay.
With mountains and hills and valleys and seas and rivers and lakes and streams, do you think that they think that the topography has anything to do with the overall shape of the Earth?
I don't know. Do you?
You don't know.
It's Brenda correcting him.
Okay.
Yeah. But the topography we experience is kind of a null in the whole of the Earth, because we're based on gas pressure's antecedent of needing containment. We're inside of the container that we would call Earth. The outside of it is yet to be explained, so it's a silly moot point that people just beat their heads on.
What's sea level and elevation angle? What picture do you get in your mind?
Exactly. What is that?
Right. Oh, see, that's the thing. I was over at Bev's a while back, and I'm like, dude, how much of the surface of the Earth is covered in water? It's a lot, right? Right. So, does water seek level at rest? Now, I get that the oceans aren't always at rest. They all take breaks. It's intermittent changes. It's fluctuations. It's fluxing. But at rest, that's a majority of the surface. And that's not to mention Antarctica, and not to add in the salt flats. So for every hill, valley, rock, and anthill that you have to go, oh, well, it's not flat. Well, there's 10 times as much surface area than what you're thinking about with your hill or your valley or any of that shit, or it is fucking flat.
Hold on a second.
Stupid.
Nobody's saying anything about hills and mountains.
Before we get triggered, right, with the exception of the topology upon it, Earth is flat. And I don't have any issue with his reasoning when it's laid out with a few disclaimers. He's saying that topology is what we stand upon. That isn't flat. Therefore, to say Earth is flat is an overgeneralization that isn't strictly true. Now, I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but fair enough. That's his attitude. I oversimplify it when I say Earth is flat, without disclaiming that that would exclude the topology upon the plane of existence that we dwell atop. Yes, the topology isn't perfectly flat, but overall there is a zero baseline that you can apply everywhere, and the ground may be above or below that baseline. Typically, below the baseline will give you water, and above will give you land at a particular height. But as an overall aspect, Earth is indeed flat when you exclude the topology.
No.
Hold on a minute.
Hang on, John. If you're going to quote him that way, then you got to quote him saying you are a flat Earth society and you are living in a contradiction.
I don't care about that.
And you're going to be, hold on, you're going to be proven wrong, Nathan.
Okay, his sentiment I will address, and indeed agree with. His opinions as one man I couldn't care less about.
But now I would like to address the argument about topology, because there's the geometric concept, right, of flat, and then actual measurement. So, let me give you an example. You take a pencil and a ruler and you draw a line. Is that line straight if your ruler's straight?
At a microscopic level, absolutely not.
Exactly. It's a non sequitur argument to say because there's hills and valleys that the overall aspect of the Earth changes. That's non sequitur.
Right.
It's not a globe anyway.
The Earth has no continuous spherical relief, which is what would be necessitated if the Earth had the aspect of sphericity, which is also simultaneously a shape. The aspect of flatness, which is what we actually observe, together with topology upon it, has no 8 inches per mile visible relief. But that's what the sphere claims. So when we say it's flat, as an aspect, it is.
Yeah, it's just mixing up the geometric concept with like measurement, you know.
Well, topographical and geometric.
Right.
When you look at a map and it's got those little rings around it, what are they called? Isobars or something like that? What do they call them, those rings that show you the height? Elevation profiles. Little rings around mountains and such, and they just lay out how many feet high they are. Well, that's in reference to what? What's zero? Well, that's the ground. That's the zero is the reference for the entire plane.
Right.
That's correct.
So it's confusing.
You would think a surveyor would know that.
I understand his sentiment. I understand his trepidation in terms of not wanting to disclaim himself as a flat earther, in quotes, because that, as a stereotype, has a lot of connotations attached to it and a lot of nonsense attached to it. We talked yesterday about the Feast of Nonsense. Most, quote, flat earthers have engorged themselves in the Feast of Nonsense. And I know for a fact that Bev doesn't want to be party to that, therefore doesn't want to be a, quote, flat earther. And he's got an argument to justify his non-conformity to that, in brackets, group, by saying, no, the topology of the land isn't flat. Therefore, I wouldn't be so bold as to state that because I feel it's wrong. And in his justification, you can just, or I would just go, okay, fair enough. I say it's flat because it is.
If it stopped right, not a problem if it stopped right there. But now, your show, we are part of the Flat Earth Society.
That's his one man's opinion. There's nothing backing that crap. His justification. I've said this already. Take it up with Bev as an individual. Who cares? You're that thin-skinned. Who cares?
No, 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 no. It's not who cares. It's not a matter of thin-skinned. If you listen to it again and pick up all the things, we are living in a contradiction. Well, we're not living in a contradiction because you just explained it. But he's not willing to say, well, yeah, you know, they know the valleys and hills. They're not really saying what I'm saying they're saying, but I like this title for me better. Well, that's acceptable right there. But then to say that we're in a contradiction, we're the Flat Earth Society, and how do you get around that? Well, you just explained how we got around it. You got to have a base. Oh, my goodness.
Excellent point, Tent. You're right. 100% right.
Okay, and link back. Okay, and link back to the justification argument again. Completely agree. Worth justifying in that regard. Fair enough.
Would Bev or I wouldn't mind being called a baseline earther just so it goes back to the elevation angle argument a lot quicker.
Free baser? What?
Baseliner.
No, yeah, just so it goes back to the argument quicker.
I have no issue calling myself a flat earther and declaring that the Earth is flat. It is.
So when someone says Earth, what immediately pops in your head?
Terra, the ground.
The ground. Even though there's water on Earth, right?
Yeah, and underneath that, ground. Just below sea level.
Ground, as in soil?
Yeah, and below the water, there's that also.
So water and soil?
No, just the land.
So whenever you say land, are you including water in that, or no?
No.
Was that a no, or?
No, that's a definite no.
Okay, I couldn't hear you that well. That's why.
Just the land. When you say, oh, what's Earth, I don't think of the sea. I might think of what's underneath the seabed, as Earth, but the sea is the sea. Now, we've got a level of the Earth that we describe the sea with. Sea level, don't we? Right? Again, in relation to the ground. So when you say, what do you think of when you think of terra firma, or the Earth, I think of the Earth, I think of the ground. I don't think of the sea.
Then why'd you bring up sea level?
Because you did. I said, in terms of the sea, because you brought it up, it's got a reference to the ground, and it's at 0, isn't it? But what's the scale put against? It's not put against the ground?
Which part of the ground is it being put up against?
Just the ground. The ground we're standing on.
Yeah, but which part? I mean, that ground that you're standing on has different levels.
All of it. 0's the same everywhere. All of it.
So the sea level means the ground we're standing on, even though the ground we're standing on has different altitude. So that's sea level, right?
No, because it's different. It varies.
Oh, it's different.
Yeah. Some of it's underneath the sea level.
Well, I asked you what you're trying to compare the sea level with, and you said the ground, and we can all conclude that the ground has
you said that.
Altitude.
You asked what I'm comparing sea level to, and I was like, I didn't. You did. So I'm not comparing it that way. You are.
Okay. I asked you what sea level was, and what you was comparing it to, and you said the ground. Did you or did you not?
Yeah, in reference to your saying, when thinking about Earth, you think about sea. Okay. I don't, but fine. When I compare it with sea, because you think about it with sea, I get talked over and swore at when I qualify my question and answer that I've been asked, and I'm now answering for the 3rd time. You're going to rumpus me for answering it and qualifying it? I said I don't think about sea. You said, well, when you think about it with sea, so I did. And I said, when I do, I think about 0 being in comparison to the ground. That's what I think about.
You just made a claim that I said that Earth means water, and I said before that whenever most people, including myself, think of the word Earth, they conclude it as a realm and not just soil, and not just water, or not just soil.
Okay.
And whenever I ask about, you invoke sea level, so I ask about your sea level that you invoke. And I said, well, what's it level to? And you said the ground. Well, I'm standing on ground and I don't see any water. So,
okay, that's wonderful.
Thus concluding that the ground is at different levels, but you're trying to compare the sea level to different levels of the ground.
Okay. Your point being?
What are you Wow. So, yeah, you still don't get the point.
No, that's why I'm asking.
Wow.
Wow.
My point is, why are you saying that sea level is relative to the ground that I'm standing on whenever I don't see any water to even compare the sea level to? And we can all conclude that the earth, that the ground...
Did I miss something? I didn't. I didn't. I said it was in relation to Earth. You didn't like it. You tried to tie it to sea level, so I went along with your wanting to tie it to it and gave you how I would tie it to it.
You literally said that. You literally said that, man.
And?
Let's just start over. What do you think he's saying?
Yes, let's start over, shall we?
Yeah, let's start over because the words got mixed up there. So why don't you start over and say it again and see what happens.
Go ahead, Nathan.
You were the one asking the question. You asked me how I saw the Earth. You were the one in control of the questions. Yeah. Do you not understand this dynamic? Right, I'm now having to explain the dynamic to you, and you're talking through me. Bloody hell.
Okay, I asked
somebody
you what
read
the
what
Earth was.
sea
You
level
said
means?
terra firma. Yes?
Yes, the ground.
The ground is Earth.
Yes.
So, not the water, but just the ground, correct?
No, not the water.
So, the ground that we're standing on is different levels, correct?
Yes.
So, the Earth, the ground, is not flat then, correct?
As a plane, overall, yes.
So, yes, correct, or...
Affirmative. Yes, correct. As an aspect,
so
Earth is a flat plane.
But you just said Earth is the ground.
Yes.
The ground is not flat, is it?
Overall, the aspect that we dwell atop is flat. Yes, you can park the topology and plot out how high or low it is in regards to the overall aspect of flat topology we dwell atop. That is about the 5th time I have said it.
So where does sea level come into play at?
When you introduce it right about now and then maybe claim that I was talking about it like you did earlier and then swear at me because I point out that you're introducing it and then talking through me when I get frustrated with the fact that I didn't bring it in, didn't detail it, then you claimed I didn't swore at me for not doing it because you introduced it, right? You are introducing that. Now, that's the point. Let's get it absolutely clear.
It this time, but
Let's get it clear while he chants through me because he's a triggered wanker that's just been caught in his own nonsense that I tried to point out last time, but he declared unequivocally that it was me bringing it up when I made absolutely certain to make sure that he understood I meant the ground. Now he's bringing in the seat. What, am I bringing this up, dickhead?
You brought in...
You brought it up then, didn't you, yeah? No, not me last time. No, not me this time. You are bringing this up.
At the conversation. But yeah, you're the one that brought in sea levels last time.
Did I bollocks?
Yeah, now you're interrupting me, see?
Yeah, because you're now claiming I brought it up last time like you brought it up this time. I tried to make it absolutely clear to the audience that this is the point where you are bringing it in on this occasion, the same as you did last time, and now you're declaring boldly that I'm bringing it up. No, I'm not, shit for brains. You are. You just need to strawman me with it, and you have no way of making your argument unless I talk about sea level. Clearly. I haven't brought it up. You have.
You brought it up the last time.
Oh, did I? Really? It's not like I record these interludes. It's not like I can keep track of my own bloody words when I specifically say no. The ground, specifically, I think of. Terra firma, where I think of. The earth, I think of. No, I didn't make it clear enough for you to slip in that I talked about the sea. No, I did not.
You are literally the first person that invoked the word sea level, Nathan, a while ago.
My God.
Now, not this time after your little white knight proposed that we all reset the conversation.
Because you've got such a wonderful point to make. What's your point? Nobody knows your point. Other than being an argumentative prick, nobody knows what your point is. Nobody knows how this validates or invalidates anything, or how it proves your opinion, or how it even is your opinion. So far, other than you saying, well, I would call it a realm, which I also listen to, we've got no value to anything you're saying. So what? What's the point of this discussion? At the end of it, do you say, therefore, blah, 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 blah? What's the therefore conclusion that you would present at the end of this?
Straw man.
I'm asking you for your conclusion, and you're telling me I'm using a straw man when literally, as the host, asking a guest what his conclusion for the last 10 minutes of dialogue would be. You're telling me that me asking for a conclusion is a straw man?
So you ask me a question and then I can't answer it because you just want to fucking keep bumping your fucking cocksucker. Cool. Is it my turn yet, Nathan, to answer your fucking question?
Get rid of this guy. I'm
Kick him out.
Get rid of him. He's making you look like a fucking dumbass, Nathan. Get rid of him. He has too many
You are a
questions.
dumbass. That was
Thou
proven the
shalt
other
not answer
day.
ask questions.
tired of your.
Get rid of him.
You're not.
We'll get there in a
Be
minute.
civil. You don't belong here.
I listen to you.
Well, I mean, it's pretty
Okay, you said straw
He asked
man.
me a question, and I can't even fucking answer the goddamn
Okay,
question
fine.
that he asked me.
You
Okay,
don't understand basic survey.
So straw man, you say. What do you mean?
Is the ground measured flat and level?
Hello, dude, I just asked him a question. Dude, hello? Yeah, I'm going to kick you out. Long, protracted silence, and then somebody else decides they're going to interlude with their question. No, I asked him to qualify what he stated, and I listened to when he said the word straw man. I then qualified it with a load of rumpusing, that I said, can you give us your conclusion? The response, the reply that I did listen to was the word straw man. I've asked him to now qualify what he means. Not another question from someone else in Discord, please. What do you mean, straw man?
You said a while ago, what's the conclusion? Therefore, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that would be the straw man. Therefore, you answered your own question that I didn't say, therefore, blah, blah, blah. That's the straw man, Nathan.
Oh, I understand. So when I asked you what your conclusion was, actually, it's just blah, 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 blah. So blah, blah, blah is the conclusion. In other words, there is no conclusion. Blah, blah, blah is the conclusion. You don't have a conclusion. This was a waste of everybody's time, other than you expressing your rather aggressive need to argue about nothing. Yes, we all achieved nothing. Yeah, that's correct, because you don't have a point to make.
So thank you for not letting me finish the answer to your question.
Yes, it was so coherent and concise and useful to everybody to listen to the end of that tirade of nonsense where you told me about blah, blah, blah being the reason you used a straw man. I doubt you even know what a straw man fallacy is. What's a straw man fallacy?
Not going to play your little fucking word. I won't even...
My word game, you used the word. You said straw man. I'm asking you what it means, and clearly you don't know. Otherwise, you'd just define what straw man means. You don't know.
Nathan's tactic. He asks a question and don't let fucking people finish the answer. Wow.
Okay, I'll ask you again.
What a great debate show that you host, Nathan.
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll ask you again. What's a straw man fallacy? Go.
Are you going to let me answer it and to the fullest without interruption? Yes or no? straw man is, I'm not going to go with the definition. I'm going to go with what I would call, my own definition is more or less making up something that someone has said and arguing that.
You think the definition of straw man is making up what somebody said and arguing that?
Is that not right?
You seem to be asking me for confirmation of whether or not you understand what a straw man
You
fallacy
act
is.
like just because it ain't word for word what fucking Google said, it's fucking wrong.
Do you think it's right?
I mean, that's the conclusion I got out of the definition that I have received. Like I said, I'm not just going to parrot some fucking Google definition. I've put it into my own context and my own words. Do you need a fucking citation, Nathan? Do you want a citation?
I didn't ask for one. So, based on your definition of what you think a straw man fallacy is, that would be using an argument that someone else said. How is that the case when I asked you for your conclusion?
You literally said, so what's the conclusion here? And then you insisted on saying, therefore, blah, blah, blah. And that, therefore, blah, 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 you trying to answer the question you asked me was the straw man.
You have no idea what a straw man fallacy is, do you?
Oh, yeah, I know. I don't understand.
I know you are stupid. We all know you are stupid. And now we are all certain that you don't know what a straw man fallacy is or how to imply that I have used one. You haven't got a clue. Yes, that much is absolutely without question.
Yeah, so nothing but personal attacks and no...
Not a personal attack. Me dissecting your total lack of understanding of the fallacy you claimed I used when I asked you to give a conclusion to your total nonsense that you subject us to. That's a clinical dissection of your ignorance, not a personal attack.
Enlighten me on what straw man is, Nathan.
Sorry, why? Did I claim you used one?
Well, you're claiming that I don't know what a fucking straw man is, so enlighten me.
You don't. After the fact, you might go away and look at what it is in a little bit more detail. Me, I didn't claim you used one, so I won't be defining what it is. You definitely claimed I used one. I then clinically took apart how fucking ignorant you were and how little you knew about what you claimed I'd used in fallacy. I definitely didn't. You're just a moron. I won't be defining for you what you used with your ignorance. No, that won't be happening, shit for brains. Go away and fucking Google it, you total retard.
He said straw man immediately upon it being asked for a conclusion.
I think I'm going to educate you while you sit there and swear at us. You're swearing at me, you're swearing at the panel, you're swearing at the audience, and you're a thick shit. Yet you think I should sit here and educate you about what a straw man fallacy is? You've got some sort of malfunction going on, mate. Why would I take my time to educate you about anything?
He's the triangulation guy from the other day. I recognize the voice.
He claims to be a flat earther, but he ain't. He's a fucking troll.
Yeah, he might be a flat earther. He's just looking for trouble. Doesn't know where to find it, so he's come here. Well, if he just wants a row, he'll just be humiliated with his ignorance after a certain amount of time. In spite of how angry or uncalm he might seem, fine, put your argument across if you've got a point to make. If you haven't, it'll get pointed out and you'll call that a straw man. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Sleeping Warrior. We've also got Eli somewhere, and we've also got Refracted Curvature somewhere. They've obviously dropped while I was doing the intro. Also, a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Strawman!
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Back in the day, I did performance art training when I was at college, and one of the things you'd get a lot of trouble for would be what's called an in-joke. Now, strictly speaking, when we go live, the live audience is not privy to the conversation that we've just been having, Neil. So they don't know what that means, which always means whenever I hear what I call an in-joke, I have to qualify it before the housekeeping to the audience, because otherwise they hear you going, Strawman, and they don't know what you're talking about. So,
sorry.
No, that's fine. I don't mind. So before the show started, a flat earther basically explained that he would like to describe the world as a realm, and when we describe it as flat based on the topology, it isn't. And what would we give as our justification? The question then followed, what would you call Earth? How would you describe it? What's being described when you talk about Earth? My answer being terra firma, the ground we're standing on, etc., etc. Anyway, that descended into rather a large row, which went nowhere for no reason, and I asked towards the end of it, what's the conclusion to all of this? What's the point? And the answer I got was, strawman. So the response to me asking what the conclusion is was to assert that I'm using a straw man by asking that question, which then ended in a humiliating dissection of the claim of straw man and how it wasn't being used and how the person claiming it didn't understand what it meant, etc., etc. That's why Neil shouted straw man right at the beginning of the live show, leading me to that relatively concise summary of what happened in the pre-show. Subscribe to my second channel if you do want to watch the pre and after show. It comes out 2 or 3 days after the live show finishes. Or become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member if you want to watch it as soon as it's been recorded, and it goes out immediately to you members. So there you go. You can see that if you're a member as soon as this is recorded and done and dusted. Anyway.
May I interject? Hey, Armin.
Hey, Arwin. Hey, Refracted, technically speaking. How you doing?
I would say that last statement, I'll leave to the audience when they listen to what they missed in the pre-show, but nothing happens for no reason.
Oh God, no, don't let it say it's happened. Have the conspiratards got to you, 10th?
No, this is just life's experience for me. When something happens, to ascribe it for no reason is not true. It happened. You may not know the reason. You may find out 6 months later, but there was a reason for it happening. And you said it happened for no reason. I'm just stating that, no, there was a reason.
Have you been watching much of John Le Bon by any chance? Big fan of Sync?
No, don't watch anything like that.
Okay. Shout out to all the Sync fans out there. I don't know if I buy it. There we go. Good power to you. And what 10th Man's saying is along those lines. I'm sure it's all.
Well, no, what do you mean? What I'm
God's.
saying is along those lines. What I'm saying has to do with human nature. So, people say things. You may not find out exactly why at the moment, but there was a reason for them saying things.
Reason for everything once spoken. That's right.
He came
say
in,
things for nothing.
He came in hot and ready for a fight. That was obvious.
Would it not be wise to just apply a bit of empathy and say, why might he be in such a distressed or seemingly triggered mood over this?
You saw that I did that. I said start over.
I'm doing it. You've asked me to. I'm doing it, and you're saying that's what I've said you should do. Yeah, thanks. I realise that, 10th. I'm doing it. Okay.
No, not you. not you. When they got to stalemate the first go around, I said, look, why don't you start over? I applied empathy, and he still was the jerk he was.
Okay.
What are you talking about? Sorry for interrupting.
Don't make me summarise it again, God.
No, Brian,
let me just get to the conclusion. This is going to descend into the weeds pretty quick if I don't take control. Sorry, 10th, I'm just going to have to...
What happened, Nathan?
Just shush, Arwin. God, you're not helping. This is not a good start to a live show. Right, okay, let's just try and exercise the empathy 10th man tried to in the pre-show and is suggesting we should do now, and say the following. Obviously, there's a concern for the description of Earth being flat when a lot of the people I perceive in this community having that opinion based on faith, as opposed to stone-cold proof that leaves them beyond all doubt in terms of the nature of their reality. Now, if you are in the former category, where you don't necessarily realise that what you're actually holding is a belief in flat Earth, and someone comes along and potentially puts the cat amongst the pigeons in regards to your belief about how flat the world is. Now, for me, somebody who wants to disclaim, in this case Bev, who hasn't got a mention up until now, but he's the trigger for this conversation, wants to disclaim that he wouldn't want to be called a flat earther, and his reasoning is topology. More power to you, mate. What's that? Does it change my opinion about how flat the world we are standing on is? Not at all. Yes, we have topology. The aspect that topology is measured against is the flat plane we exist upon. Earth is flat. You don't want to call it that? I don't have an issue, because I'm not exactly scared in the faith that I sit in. It's not a faith. It's not a belief. I know what I know, and some next man's opinion isn't going to have any bearing on that. But it might for the guy who was a bit triggered about it earlier. There you go. That's me expressing as much empathy as I can for somebody who's just sworn at me quite a lot.
Well
done, Nathan.
Yeah, good job. Covered the points too.
Should we concern ourselves? Should we, hold the flat earthers who are on the lower rungs in terms of their journey towards absolute understanding of the flat world we definitely dwell atop? Should we concern ourselves with them? Are there not many flat earthers out there with the hand-holding style channels that will give them a little cushy model to perhaps change their paradigm or give them a different way of looking at things? I think there's plenty of people out there to give people a little bit of assurance. We're not that place, though, are we? This isn't a counselling group.
No, it's not. And look, I think there's certain people out there, and early on, a lot of this started with Bev, is that they don't understand the difference between the description of an aspect and an actual positive claim that everything is flat. I mean, nobody's making that positive claim. Nobody made the claim that there wasn't topography. It's the baseline. The baseline of the world we live in is flat.
Okay, you've slightly misrepresented Bev and turned it into, for the purposes of illustration only, so I'm not saying you're wrong in doing so, you've turned it into an all or nothing fallacy, which, pushed to its extremes, that's exactly what's happening. But you've done that just to illustrate the point. And in so doing, I'm going to highlight that so that you don't get accused of misrepresenting Bev's position.
No worries.
I feel so guilty about this.
Ah, tell us more.
I think somehow it might be my fault, all of this. I think my words were misinterpreted by my own side. What I've said is that Earth is a solid, water is a liquid. The Earth is what contains the oceans. So the surface of the oceans obviously are flat. And obviously, the message didn't come quite clear. We live on a flat world.
We definitely don't live on a globe. That's for certain.
Yeah, the surface isn't curving away. Again, we covered this in the pre-show. Shout out to Sensual Goat. He's, I might as well plug him for what he is. He's the guy that went out with the Flyers, lest we forget. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. He says, a great big thanks to everyone here. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you too. Thank you very much for the super chat. Also, I believe Sensual Goat was the first person to give me a super thanks, which is something that, as soon as I saw it, I thought, what a great idea. I can e-beg all day long without doing anything, because there's a button on all the videos all the time where you can just give me money. Isn't that a great idea? I thought to myself, when can I have this facility? And I've been looking every week periodically, when am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? And then, by coincidence, having not checked for 2 or 3 days, another YouTuber who was of a similar size to me noted that they've got super thanks. So I thought, they've opened it to everybody now. Presumably, if you're a YouTuber with over 1,000 subs and you've got monetization enabled, you can just go and switch it on also. I assume they've rolled it out to everybody. But yeah, it means you can technically beg all day long, which I'm very pleased about, as that's how I run my channel, and that's how I manage to make a living here. Shout out to Uncool Ben also for joining as a member. He says, hi, I got this for free. Ooh, did you really? Excellent. Got free membership out of YouTube. Thank you very much indeed, YouTube and Uncool Ben. Should you do a bit of housekeeping, or was there anything else to cover in pre-housekeeping?
Well, I was just going to address the knowing versus believing in this conversation.
That would be a perfect conclusion, John. Yes, definitely. Please do so.
Right. Well, knowing the Earth isn't a sphere isn't exactly knowing what it is. You can know something's not something without knowing what it is. And a lot of people are in that boat. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it just makes...
because there is diddly squat expectation to prove what it is. You just need to prove what it's not. So we don't have to prove whether it's flat. Is it what without form? We don't know, but we do know that water's not curving.
Right. Well, but to claim it's flat, right? You know that. You make that claim, you need to know that. And that's an important distinction to make. Debunking the globe and proving flat Earth are not the same thing.
Indeed. The distinction comes between, for example, the black swan argument versus the elevation angle argument. One is a positive claim by us, utilising a well-established method of navigation. That's our positive assertion. Based on the requirement for a flat Earth, if performing celestial navigation, Earth is flat. There's our positive claim. If you're on the opponent side, you have to challenge that by showing how celestial navigation doesn't and isn't utilising a flat plane in order to be performed. You won't be doing that. Nevertheless, that's our positive claim. By contrast to in modus tollens with the black swan, it makes it overtly stated from the off that it's the challenge to the positive globe claim. If the Earth is a sphere radius 3959, that's a positive claim from their side that we are challenging in the modus tollens argument. So therefore, there's two very different positions. Debunking a globe is debunking their positive claim. So Anthony said you've got to prove it's not true. Nah, not a great phraseology. Just disprove that it's true when they make the positive assertion. And we have the positive assertion now also. To my knowledge, with the exception of things like the sea sparrow, we didn't have that many positive claims of flat Earth until now. Am I wrong?
Well, like Anthony said, it wasn't truly necessary. It's just a nice thing to have. It's a powerful position to have.
Exactly. It strengthens the position, but I was in no way under the misapprehension that proof would be acquired for a curving Earth. So it only takes one logical step beyond most arguments to get to flat Earth. And when you've done that 50, 100 times, you're quite confident in your conclusions. In other words, it stops being a I believe situation and it's really only this way because it can't be any other way. But then when you get to the further to that, how can you turn that into a positive assertion when you need something like celestial navigation, long established with flat baselines and angles being made within the process, angles that aren't achievable if your baseline's curved? ergo proof of flat Earth and capable of being used in a positive assertion. Earth is flat, it can't be any other way, otherwise you wouldn't be able to get an angle from it. Not to it, from it. Right, let's burst into housekeeping on that note. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? Also, shout out to Michael Khan, who says he got me too, presumably means I got free memberships. Seems like YouTube are promoting me at the moment. Maybe those views weren't as distorted as we thought.
The answer is no. It wouldn't be an angle, and it wouldn't be elevation either.
There you go. There's our positive claim. Anybody watching, if you didn't realise it, there it is. Earth is flat. It's observed to be flat. It's measured flat. It's navigated flat. Obviously, observably, navigatably, and measurably flat. Any evidence?
I was wondering.
Go on.
I was going to ask if the Globers could get an angle to the surface since they refracted their geometry.
No, that's the. I like that you dropped that in there because that typically only comes from the opponents. There's John showing his exemplary understanding of not only globe and not only flat Earth debunking of globe and flat Earth positive claims, but the nonsensical rebuttals from anti-flat earthers that come following that. That's correct. Further to the black swan, how are you going to get a straight line to the surface that you assume is curved if all lines are always perceived to be bent? Speaking of not getting a straight line tangent point to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve, any evidence of Earth curve? That would be the tangent point with a straight line to it that John was describing earlier. It used to block boats and buildings and stuff. Boats used to fall over it. Shout out to Godzilla37 for the super chat. Not missing any super chats this time with my new monitor, Godzilla. Happy days. They are not free memberships. Okay. The members get a free super chat once a month, just to clear that up. Oh, okay. Cool. Also, good morning. Good morning to you, Godzilla. I take it we're moving on from that housekeeping question then? No further comments on Earth curve.
No, there isn't. You can't have O curve. If there was O curve, if the Earth was curved, we would have found out in 2015. It's not. That's it.
So that's it then. It's pointless to speak about anything else. If there is no curvature, there is no globe.
Well, don't be so hasty. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You're going to need that.
Yeah, and you're going to need a straight line to a geometric physical sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, to get it. Or you're going to need elevation angle measurements to Polaris off a flat plane to get it. It's not looking good for the globe. It's got to be said.
What globe?
The model that they claim was the projection.
Oh, the model. Okay. Yeah, the model is there. Seen it all over the place. Stores and classrooms, but no evidence for it.
That's not a model. That's a globe. Do you have evidence of this model? Can I see this model?
No, it's not a scientific model.
Say that again, Brian.
Measures to be flat.
Oh, sorry, Jose. Jorge. Say again, Brian.
It's not a scientific model, which is what they are claiming.
Right, but still a model. Thank you to you, Adam, Eli, Arwin, I think Neil was there as well, yesterday, for going through your thoughts in regards to this. So when we reference the celestial sphere model, it's the application of the angle measurement that you take in physical reality. And there's a discussion currently in regards to the physicality of the line to the horizon in terms of once corrected, if it's geometric, I'm choosing my words carefully in case you can't tell, versus the application of an angle, which is always two straight lines, and how it best works when translated into the celestial sphere model, which has ultimately been hijacked and turned into a protractor that you're holding and calling that protractor the surface of the Earth. But that aside, there's an internal discussion currently going on, which I'm hoping this conversation will open up to the audience, which I was privy to. So I didn't know it was going on until yesterday. I was invited to listen in on the conversation. Fascinating stuff. And at one point I was asked my opinion. I'm like, I get this stuff from you. Why are you asking me? But there we go. It was a fascinating conversation. But yeah, just not a disagreement, but just an internal wrangle-dangle, if you will, in terms of a perception of how models are being applied with the angles and how you can term that in terms of geometric measurements of the very beautiful Earth that we dwell atop. Fascinating conversations that I'm privileged to. Thank you very much to all of those who invited me along yesterday.
That's still ongoing, Nathan. We didn't come to a conclusion. Well, I've come to my conclusion, but other people are not in agreement. So
yeah, I just left at some point because it's never going to end. It was like 8 o'clock at the evening.
Hold on, I missed everything.
I said Neil, I meant 10th. It's nothing particularly important. It's just when you're coming to application of real world measurements and then the use of a model and the use of the ephemeris, you're talking about a fine line between describing how you're actually going to apply something that's been modelled into your physical reality to find your position versus translation of that measurement into what you claim is your reality when describing the model. Now, that's a... Go on.
It also speaks to what a measurement is a lot of the argument. Because a measurement is when you take a conceptual quantification and apply it to an aspect of reality.
Indeed. So when you describe the length of a football field, that length isn't the field, basically, just so people understand what John's saying.
I'd have to disagree, Nathan, on when you said it's not extremely important. It is absolutely extremely important.
Yeah, it's critical. We had a big row about this. If anybody's been a long-standing viewer, or at least for the last couple of years, you'll vaguely remember Brian and me initially, and then a few others piled in, with a lot of passion from Brian about this very subject quite a while ago. And that has gone underground, if you will. It hasn't surfaced on the show, but has very much been discussed ever since because of the level of importance. And I don't want to downplay that, Brian, but I'm being very tentative because of the passion level that I know is surrounding this. And it's important stuff. We are, at this point, branching beyond debunking stupid nonsense about sky vacuums and curved Earth and, I don't know, planets and, I don't know, space travel. We've gone beyond that, and we're now actually talking about stuff that's much more exciting, much more real, much more tangible. And while that's going on, there is descriptions of models in there. So there's certain referees, if you want, Adam, 10th, and a couple of others, John, who are going to be like, hang on, I see an objection to how this is being described. And we're just talking about semantics here. We're literally talking about the verbalization of these concepts. But that's important when we know from experience that we've been duped, and therefore doubly careful when we phrase things out. You know, the housekeeping, if anyone comes along on a passing glance, might think, so what, a load of questions. It's like, no, you don't understand how refined they are. Incredibly refined. And what's going on at the moment is no different, and inevitably will, I would imagine, turn into some sort of refinement of the way that we talk about this stuff. So it is critically important, and I'm, over-egging the pudding a little bit now at this point, Brian. Maybe I should hand off back to you. We'll see if we get any discussion about it, because it's still obviously no conclusions yet, so maybe not.
Well, with Adam not here, it's probably best not to, but what I would, because it wouldn't be fair, because I'd be pushing my argument without him having his opposition. Now, John might oppose me in that, fair enough, but it was Adam initially that I was having mostly me and Adam. So just two, because Tent, well, I can't speak for Tent, but he'd be more than likely on my side, and John would be more likely on Adam's side. So it would be not fair, because it might be a bit uneven, I don't know. But what I will say about the situation is there is two descriptions being given. I am on the side of one for very particular reasons, and that description is coming from those who used the marine sextant, mariners who used celestial navigation. The other description is an in-depth description mathematically. So there's two descriptions that are being, that's the problem. And I have an argument that one of them ends up in a pre-assumption, the other one ends up in a positive claim.
Correct. One can be twisted into a pre-assumption, but at this point, both are flat Earth, just in case anybody's concerned, because there will be.
Well, that's why I'm not going to go further into it because Adam's not here. But what I would say, sorry, John.
That's why I've always said that this isn't a debate any longer if both sides agree.
Yeah, it's not a debate about the aspect of the Earth that is flat. It's more about the descriptions of how things are applied within celestial navigation, various aspects of them to the flat Earth, as opposed to, is it flat or not? No, that's not really debatable in terms of how this is going to pan out. It will eventually make it to the audience, but it's nice to know that the beginning of this is probably 18 months ago, if I'm remembering correctly, when Brian basically bit my head off, and I know why, and I know why it's important. But that was the start of it. If anybody's been following along, again, I'm kind of start off by moaning about
I'll give a summary. Well, go on, Arwen. What do you want to say?
No, don't give a summary. No, Brian's already hinted that he doesn't want this summarised, because when he said no, I can read between the lines. Let's just move on. We haven't finished housekeeping anyway, so I'm just going to abruptly draw an end to this conversation, unless Brian says otherwise, which he won't, I know.
No, thank you.
Perfect. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I was going to say something, but now I forgot. Thanks.
You can answer the housekeeping question currently asked.
3 Arwinian units.
3 Arwinian
distance
units?
to the sun.
Don't mention that. We got very touchy yesterday when we talked about him offering.
R. It's based on R. There is no R, so there's no distance to the sun the way they have told us.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say before we move on about the whole model thing and flat Earth proof, right? We did not derive evidence for the Earth to be flat from a model. The model came afterward for us, after the Earth was established to be flat, and it's not really relevant to the argument. It's just more data on top of it.
Right? Slight correction. Yes, you're right, but slight correction. The model came from a flat Earth, though, just to make that bit clear. We're talking about the celestial sphere model.
But we did not derive all our evidence for the Earth to be flat from some model.
No.
We figured that out separately from the model.
No, there have been measurements taken that have derived this model. Celestial sphere model is what we're talking about. It's not only our model, it's everyone's model. But if you're going to use a model of Earth, that's what it's going to be based upon. And the way that was created was by way of utilisation of angle measurements from a flat plane. That was how it was created. Now, taking it and forming it into dual radii, okay, you can turn that into a sphere, but that's a different model. But both have come from a flat Earth measurement in the first instance. Now, what Arwin's saying, and he's right, is we haven't then said, okay, once you've got the celestial plane, you've got the equatorial plane, or whatever you want to call that particular model of the heavens, you're not using that model to say it's flat when we point out that that model has been measured from a flat plane. It doesn't. We're not doing what the globers do when we hold up our model and say, therefore, it's a flat plane, when they say, therefore, it's a sphere. I get what you're saying.
We don't rest our case on the model. The model comes out of our case.
Correct. Or to put it more succinctly in the way that I think it was John Refracted Curvature did in the discussion yesterday, we don't reify the model.
Exactly.
So what you guys are saying is you wouldn't have a geographical north or something like that that doesn't match the other north. Like having like 3 norths in the same model. Like a magnetic north and a celestial north and then a geographical north.
And grid north.
Would stop that nonsense.
Yeah, you missed grid north.
Well, hold on, those norths are they're model norths of a flat Earth on a celestial sphere, so it's still a flat Earth model when they talk about those 3 points.
Okay, pop quiz. How many norths are there if you want to talk about an actual position?
4. They think it's 4, Nathan.
actual.
Could be wrong.
As opposed to
north. I only know of one actual north.
Has anyone actually been to the North Pole?
No, I should have rephrased that as direction as opposed to location.
Yeah, there's only one north that exists. One that is magnetic north.
Okay, so grid north, geographical north, magnetic north, and what do they call the actual north?
The celestial north.
Right. And what are we talking about in terms of the celestial sphere model?
Axial north?
Celestial north.
Exactly.
So
Right, but I've never seen even like a claim like here's exactly where the North Pole is. Like,
once that you have the position of the Polaris, you just move the ground and the map and put it under the GP, and you corrected everything.
That would imply that would imply you could back engineer it, though, wouldn't it? I don't see any reason why, in moving forward, that you can't back engineer it. I know Adam, when I said this to him last time, was like, no, somebody has actually done this. They came pretty close to a combined, what do they call those, like 2 discs sandwiched on top of each other with all the stars, and they're normally 2 separate ones, North and South Hemisphere. I can't remember who the guy was, but somebody... Planisphere, that's the one. Somebody did a combined planisphere. You go, well, once you've got that and you've got the navigational stars below, you can plot out a very accurate map.
Well, it's interesting where Brian and Tent and me and Adam have been talking about models so much that when you're describing something to someone, how easy it is to slip into a model as the description, and then they reify that, because Globers do it all the time. I don't think it's intentional. They go into a description and they make what they're describing, you know, they create that model and then they make that reality.
Just model addiction, right? Models are so comforting. They suggest oversight and all that. But yeah, they don't automatically become correct. You have to actually figure out the components first. And they don't like doing that.
Well, it's just go
on.
I just think it's models are an extremely useful way of communicating an idea, because it gives you a visible representation. It's just you have to understand what aspect that visible representation is trying to give you. You know.
Why are you saying not all models are visual?
Sorry, just 1 second, Darwin. Your last words, John, were almost identical to what Mark Sargent said to me when I sat across from him at a conference and expressed my concern for model reification. The justification he gave was almost verbatim what you just said. That's what Mark Sargent said to me.
Well, he's obviously a smart guy. As long as you don't reify that model into reality and make a claim based on the model, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a useful tool.
Was Neil just laughing at the backhanded self-compliment?
Yes, that was great.
Well, it's like if you think of it as a convention to communicate an idea, it's no different than using math or language.
Math is language.
Yeah, but then you're gonna have to find a meridian to put in the middle of your model, separating things and the times and everything else. So, you know, just other things that you need to add more in your model, whatever model you're going to do.
I say let's make it England.
John also thinks it's useful that people think they're on a globe.
Which John?
Prove that it's not.
Oh, you're breaking up, Neil. Prove that it is. What purpose other than total control?
Well,
That's what he's saying.
Depends on who, hold on. It depends on who has that control, and what do everyone believe that the higher echelons of government promote sociopaths? Would you not want those people contained?
Oh God, this is that conversation. Okay, this is going to trigger the panel. I can see it happening already.
Oh, it's going to go somewhere crazy in a minute.
Okay, let me just paraphrase John's position. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that the globe, as a perception, as a way of, a paradigm, is intentional. Don't get triggered if you're a Christian just don't. It's just an example. So if that's his will, God's will, then why not, having seen that 1 in 20 of the Western world are complete psychopaths, wouldn't you instill a certain level of control that stops that, like described in The Matrix by Agent Smith? You're a virus. You're just parasites. You'll just spread everywhere and fuck everything up. Unless we put something in there to control you. So from that perspective, wouldn't it make sense to have a certain degree of control and something for those who seek power and control to have control over? Like giving them a little toy to play with. Here's your ball. Go and play with that, you little monsters. That's his position. I might have over-egged that a bit. John, do you want to just tidy that up in case I did?
Oh no, that's
Matrix of delusion, right? Those that
it's not exactly. It's not exactly my position, but it is an idea that seems just as fair to me as the opposing side. So
John thinks it'll be total anarchy if people come to the conclusion that they're not in a ball. Let's face it.
That's oversimplifying it somewhat, but yes.
No, but I do agree with John a little, because the ball is, there's so much stuff there to dwell upon that it is a distraction for those that cannot distinguish lies from truth, right? So arguably the followers of Satan. If you can I finish? If you consider Satan to be lies specifically and God truth, then the ball earth is such a vast thing that it can trap people that can't tell the difference anymore, right? Which would be deviants, those that dabble in lies. Well, if you lose track of what's lies and what's truth, yeah, then the globe is a great busying therapy to keep those minds occupied and out of the way of actually causing havoc in the real world, potentially.
Any other comments on this?
So like
go on. Yeah, go ahead.
Once you break, just saying, like once you break out maybe of believing this globe, then you might have found the truth, and you're out of that that bad vibe, that evilness of control. We've all found the truth in flat Earth and found the Creator and found the way, maybe.
In the Christian religion, they in the Bible, in the New Testament, Paul says that they traded the truth for a lie. And I suppose what I suppose is because even though that we're brought up to believe the lie, we're part of that trade already happened before us, didn't it?
Well, people seek out their own lies to believe in to separate themselves from oversight, from knowledge, arguably from God, at least at a small scale. So, yeah, the globe model, it's all there. It's all false. It's blatantly, obviously false. But at least it's there, and it's busying therapy. It's like a mental prison for the deviants, potentially. So, yeah, if you grow up in that, then they can figure out where you're at spiritually and mentally and how well you can distinguish. And then they can always choose to pull you out. Right?
Well, I have one difference with the R1 on that is I think it could be like an antagonistic presence in humanity, or it's been around since humanity, like Lucifer is described as. That's the cause of it.
So are you suggesting that it would be required to maintain balance, John?
Possibly.
I agree. It's a controlled opposition for deviants. Or that's what they made it for. Now, whether that is good or should be is another matter. But I think that's the reason why it came into being the way it's now.
Well, look what happens when you tell people the truth. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, we don't know why we're really here. We don't really know what's going on. All we know is what we think we know. You know, we can measure some stuff and we can make spiritual claims, and that's it. Whatever's going on, it's bigger than us. And there must have been a reason why we believed we were on a globe. Maybe it was us, maybe it wasn't us. Maybe it was predetermined.
No, it wasn't.
I'm sorry, you can't measure why you're here. It has nothing to do with each other, physics and philosophy like that. And I'm pretty sure you can know why.
I don't know. I think that's the overriding question that everybody's asking, as much as you could give the Hitchhiker's Guide answer. I think most people are seeking their purpose and meaning, aren't they? Isn't that what deep reflection's all about?
Yeah, and God holds out a promise. Ask, seek, and knock, and he will answer. And that's what I did, and he answered. So I know why I'm here. I don't know about you guys. That's up between you and God. But
exactly.
This other subject of why the globe lies, it's pretty obvious. To hide the creator, to give man the power and say you came from nothing, your life is insignificant, you have this allotted time, whatever that is, and go for the gusto, no judgment day. And the governments use that in their favor. Look at what communism has done. They go kill 60 million people in Mao Zedong's China and say it's no different than killing a chicken because there's no God, there's no judgment, there's not a real soul there. So it's to hide God, is to put atheism on the top. And the people who have come to Flat Earth, in the testimonials that go for hours on YouTube channels. Yeah, I was raised in a Christian home or a religious home, and I went to school. And when I got there, they said everything about the Holy Scriptures were wrong. There's no such thing as a worldwide flood, and science is this. And I became an atheist or an agnostic at the least. And then when I saw Flat Earth, oh my gosh, I'm crying for forgiveness. I'm back to God. So with as many as testimonies that I've seen, because I'm not in that boat, I don't feel what they feel. But they had something, it got stolen away with a lie, and then now they're back to it because they saw the truth that there had to be a creator for a flat earth, but there isn't one for a globe that burst out of some big bang that doesn't exist.
Quick shout out to Isa Maholsky, who says, secular cosmology, open brackets, the globe / Big Bang, close brackets, keeps a system of individuality. Religious control leads to tyrants. We have religious liberty and lawful protections. Peace, fiery symbol. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Isa Maholsky. Really appreciate the support.
Yo, I just wanted to say, before you shouted out the super chat, that the truth isn't stolen from us, right? The entire globe religion and the model has hints everywhere that it's incorrect. It's constantly testing your critical thinking. It's constantly doing that by its design in itself. And so it's always giving you an opportunity to be able to snap out of it, get real, and figure out what is real. So it's not a complete trap. You're not literally being enslaved. You always have the option to figure it out and to break out. But it's never a nice option, right? It's always going to be kind of miserable once you figure out it's all a lie. But it doesn't technically trap you. You can only trap yourself by your own choices.
No, I agree with you, Arvin, 100%.
Cool.
I think it's very likely the whole globe thing was given to us. I'm not saying it's definite, but it may have been given to us via the Creator. Because I don't know why the Creator does what he does, thinks what he thinks. You know, all I know is that he's greater than me, and he's the boss, and whether I like it or not, I have to be like him. And that's that. And
I'm with you because I think that all information and all ideas we ever get comes directly from the Creator. So,
Tent, do you want to straighten this out, Tent?
Hey, hello.
Nonsense.
Oh no, not nonsense. Where
all ideas? Let me go murder someone. All ideas come from the Creator. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's all part of the same information spectrum that He has created for all of us, and it includes the tests. right?
because you
It
don't
gives
know
you
'em.
also the
Right,
senses.
so-
It gives you the senses to distinguish what is good and right, and then make your choice.
Thank you. Now that you've gone back to the, okay, fine. Let me finish now. So now that the Creator has told us there's an archenemy called Lucifer, and there's a fight for our souls, and that He has won our soul through Jesus Christ, that's the test from a biblical point of view. Now, if somebody else wants to come and say from another point of view it's something else, and they attribute an essence to the Creator different than the Christian view, that's fine. No one's going to know, I guess, until the end, right? And so, bottom line, we have an enemy of our soul. We have liars. We have psychopaths. But then we got dear friends and nice people. So those people make choices to be good. Other people make choices to be bad. And at the end, they'll all be shaken out.
Right, but that doesn't take away that all ideas ever all come from God. All of them.
No,
Yes.
God can,
Yo,
no.
yes.
Let me
Yo,
finish.
You're separating. You're
Let me answer
categorizing
it.
in two
Let me
different
answer it.
things in a single spectrum.
Let me answer it. Gosh, you just overtalk when I'm ready to answer it. God cannot do evil, so that doesn't come from God. He allows it to exist because there's a choice to be made because we fell in the garden. From a biblical point of view, it makes a total sense. If you're going to say everything comes from God, then that means the rape, the murder, everything is God-driven. No, it's not. It's satanic.
Driven? I'm not talking about that drive. That drive is choice. That's what you do with it. No, but God definitely does send us tests. So He is the arbiter and creator of all information. You shut up. I'm arguing with you and you're rumpusing right through me.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Driven? Why are you taking my word driven and making something I never meant about it?
I'll take that as a no.
Declaring.
The apple fell off.
No, that's how you interpreted it.
You're saying nothing bad comes from Him, but it does. And I just said, you literally said, yeah, it does. He tests us. Oh, so, but it's not coming from Him, but He tests us. He tests us with evil, but it's not coming from Him. Okay,
No, He
thank you.
didn't create evil. There's something called free choice.
Yeah, I know. That doesn't mean that's a choice, right? That doesn't mean that no evil
Free
comes
choice is
from
not a
God.
choice.
It does come
Free
from
choice
Him.
is
He
not a
designed it for us to test us.
So God can make robots and disallow free choice and no one would sin. Or God can make us free agents and there is a choice, either God or whatever your desires are, evil or good, and you sin. And so that separates you from God because God is holy and perfect. And so it's laid out.
That's a red herring. It has nothing to do with each other.
You know,
You're talking about man. You're not talking about the source of the information. You're not addressing it at all.
I am talking about the source of information. I'm talking about
You're
God.
talking about man's choice. That's not the source of the information. That's man dealing with the information.
How is it that you take something as simple as I do and already take it to somewhere where I didn't even take it? You are having your own conversation with my words, debating yourself. You're not debating me.
Yeah, you're red herring the argument. So I have to take over for you because this is all very sensitive to you and you get very triggered every time I do any of this.
Look who sounds triggered. You, not me. I rest my
You're
case
the
in the
one
word of
red
God.
herring me and rumpusing over me loud-voiced. Thanks.
Projection. You're the one misquoting
Yes,
me.
it's all you. You. Oh, yes, 10th man.
I really feel sorry for you.
No evidence, Nathan, no.
Really feel sorry for you, Arwin.
This is about
And you're a horrible debater and extremely biased.
Okay.
I'm
Let's
not
just
debating.
stop,
I'm
guys.
stating. I'm not debating.
Hello, just stop, please. I think John wants to get a word in terms of how productive this was. Go ahead, John.
This comes down to interpretation of it's not going to be able to be settled like this. I say we move on, and because just table it for another time. I ain't saying y'all have to stop talking about it. Just there's no conclusion since it's down to interpretation.
Everyone happy? Happy to move on?
I'm fine with it. I'm just stating what the Bible says and leaving it there and let people interpret it as they like.
God is not the
Yeah, and
author
I
of
do.
evil.
And then you rumpus me over it.
Okay,
Tell me I
that's
wrote.
Don't grab your teddy bear.
Okay. That sounds like there's nothing else to discuss. I did actually ask during the conversation, but only for comedic effect. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
What's the phenomenon?
But that's the problem, isn't it? If they want to scientifically prove gravity, they know that they will disprove it. They will get annulled. So they never did. They never tried to scientifically prove it because they know that they will end up with a null.
Is that why they only test? Is that why they only test the opposing ideas to gravity, so that when they verify the null of that test, then they can claim that gravity wins out? Is that what that's about?
That sounds about right, doesn't it? Yes. If the null
it's
is
testing the null.
Yeah, you don't directly test the null, but if that's a sneaky way of doing it, isn't it? I knew that was the case, but I'd never really realised the implications until you just said it. Why would it be that way round? Well, because you can, typically speaking, I was explaining this to Dave Weiss literally only the other day, you'll normally get a null result. Now, what distinguishes the guy who's a genius from the guy who can just piss in the wind and think of an idea that might cause an effect? Well, the genius is getting it right. Now, most of the time, you won't get it right. Now, when I discussed this with QE, he gave a qualifier, which I'll drop in here, which is to say, actually, strictly no, if you're a real scientist, there's a good chance that you've been dedicating your life to a certain research field that will lead you to an educated guess about the cause of the effect when you formulate the hypothesis. So it's not strictly true to say, no, when you're actually doing the method of science, you're not going to have the vaguest clue unless you're a genius, because there's going to be a whole team of people doing research to try and get you to that point where you've got at least a vague idea what's going to cause the effect before you start varying it to see if it does. However, if you expand that out beyond science and to every other Muppet that claims science ever, Timotei adverts and Michelin tyres included, then you can expand it out to make my example work rather than focusing on the actual science of science and say when people use the word science and think they're going to be performing an experiment, what distinguishes the geniuses from the idiots? Well, actually being able to suppose the cause and verify it and cause it, which is to say that most of the time you'll get it wrong. Most of the time when you suppose a cause of an effect that you've observed in nature, you'll verify the null. Now that's still empirical proof. A didn't cause B. You supposed A would cause B and it didn't. But if you can use that almost certain to happen unless you're a genius and have done a lot of research result into I've proven my null and my null is the assumption or the contrast to the assumption of gravity, then you're onto a winner proving it with a null. Even though that's not the purpose. You're trying to prove the cause, not validate the null. So yeah, absolutely, John. That slipped me by. I love it. Sneaky sods, aren't they?
They also attach another housekeeping question to the question of gravity with a list of the claims, which is they will need two containers, a vacuum and a balloon with helium, to demonstrate not only the balloon going down, not the gas obviously, but the balloon going down in a vacuum, but also claiming that the gases will go down, which is a nonsensical thing. So you will need, even for that claim, you will need 3 containers at least, and still the gases, they're not attracted by this non-force.
That gets you up to about 107 years ago. You missed out orbital motion. There's a whole string of them, actually. Brian would probably rattle them off if I asked him to.
Well, I was going to say that they never tested gravity on... they never tested the speed a helium balloon goes down in Mercury, because that would destroy them. Because the helium balloon not only won't go down, but even if it wasn't helium and it would go down, it wouldn't go down to Mercury. So it destroys them straight away. Relative density, all proven. You know, they never did that. Why didn't they do it? Because it was destructive to what they believe. All they have is a belief. That's why they don't have scientific evidence.
Scientific evidence being a validated alternative hypothesis, which is what you're trying to achieve. So what is scientific evidence? Well, it's the assertion of a cause based on the actualization of a hypothesis, aka an experiment. So a validated experiment where you varied A and caused B. That is scientific evidence. In other words, empirically validated cause and effect relationships established through experiment. That's scientific evidence.
Oh, well, in that
There is,
case, the answer
there
is
is
no.
sorry, yeah, there is none for gravity, is there? I mean, nobody can bullet point the step 1 to step whatever of the scientific procedure for gravity because it's never been proved scientifically in the first place.
Precisely. So to concisely summarise what one deck has just put into words, there is no scientific evidence for gravity. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
Negative, and there never will be.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, go on.
Well, if you're a heliocentrist, they never will be. If you qualify it like that, then yeah. But you don't know if the paradigm shifts.
No.
Okay, well, let's go through them. Cosmology. Are you saying that's non-heliocentric?
Right. The idea of cosmology, what is it?
Study of the cosmos.
Mathematics.
And what is the cosmos?
How I would define it or how they would define it. That's what I'm asking.
Exactly.
Mathematics again?
That's what I'm saying. If they're a heliocentrist, then they'll never be able to formulate a valid hypothesis.
But for you to be a successful cosmologist, ipso facto, you must be a heliocentrist. You can't not be.
Right. But that doesn't mean that'll always be the paradigm either.
It doesn't mean it will always be the case in the future, but that's an appeal to the future fallacy in terms of the answer to the question, because you're going to have to beg the question. This is normally your point, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
For
but I'm
all
not
of the
making the
fields.
claim.
Say again,
I'm not making the claim that it never will happen. I'm just saying.
I'm making a claim. You're not going to vary and manipulate any star, moon, or sun. It's over.
Oh, whoa. Why not? Hold on. Wow. I try to piss on my bonfire when it comes to the aspirations of what we may achieve into the future. The world's your oyster. Just because it's never been moved, it's never been changed, doesn't mean that you can't vary and manipulate something to cause that effect. That's a phenomena.
How are you going to do that?
I don't know. I'm not the genius that's going to figure out why the sky is what it is. Why is it blue? I don't know. I'm not going to figure that out either, probably. But I'd like to know, and I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility to find out. What I do know is, without knowing, people have ascribed a just so story to it, and that just so story might leave you with a tarnished impression that you will never be able to figure it out. Well, okay. Now, I'm not decrying anybody who says, no, you won't. God says it's made that way, and you'll never know. Okay, that's fair enough. A bit defeatist. Sorry, that's besmirching all religion.
We can't manipulate the sun and stuff. If we start messing with any of that, even if we could, we should never do it, because we might mess up the cycle the sun has, and the cycle the stars have. We don't even know what relevance to our natural world here on the Earth that the movement of the stars has. So if we mess with their timing, or we mess with the moon's timing, or we mess with the sun's timing especially, we could have a catastrophe.
You just compound two different... Hold on. Brian's just compound two different things together, which frustrates me. Number one, you started by saying we couldn't do it. And number two, you went on to say that if we could, it wouldn't be a good idea to. Number two, I agree to. But I dislike the idea of saying that we can't do something equally as much as somebody saying we can or we have when they describe distances to gases in sky vacuums or whatever. You know, the contrast is equally bad to my brain. It makes me shudder just as much as maybe you can hear it. We can't.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay, so can Mario come out of the game? All right? Luigi come out of the game and do anything? No, he cannot.
False equivalent.
No, it's not a false equivalence. The only one that's going to shake the heavens is God himself.
Yeah, I did put that disclaimer in for the Christians that may oppose me based on their faith.
Well, let's hope he never gets his leg
to vary and manipulate it.
Right, you've been told you can't, and we won't, and the Bible agrees with that sentiment. Me, I don't like that attitude. It is just as offensive to me as somebody saying we have when they haven't. We can't because you haven't yet doesn't mean you can't. You don't know you can't. You can't prove you can't. You just know that you haven't and no one has to date. But my appeal to the future, maybe they have, and you just don't know about it. It's a big conspiracy. I could do that. I'm not going to. I'm just saying to say you can't is a very bold statement. Well, I don't feel you will ever justify to me that you know you can't. In the same way as much as QE would disagree with me on this score, when it's the case that people say the natural laws, we'll never know the cause of them. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got into long conversations with people far more educated than I about why that may be the case. Still leaves a nasty taste in my mouth. Don't know what to say, I'm just saying it like it is.
So, in 1969, they went to the moon, but now they can't do anything since. You're not going to space. It's done.
No. That wasn't ever
didn't actually go,
false equivalence. No. Not going to what they describe as space is akin to saying that you can go to Narnia, and Narnia is now going to be juxtaposed with the sky vacuum, and then you saying, well, you can't get to Narnia. Well, no, but we do have stars. They do form motions and do things. Now, that isn't to say that something might be capable of varying and manipulating them. You don't know that you can't, just because it hasn't been achieved yet. Likewise, you don't know that you won't figure out the cause of entropy. It seems unlikely. You'd have to go to the beginning of time, which is impossible, but to figure out the start of where it all began. Now, I understand the logic behind it. I'm just saying that when people say they can't do something, like give the cause of entropy, just to take it away from the current discussion, then that leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Okay? It seems like we can't, but who's trying to say that they've failed and why they've failed? Because they might eventually succeed in finding the cause of entropy. I just don't like the glass half empty, we'll never know attitude. That's all. I'm an optimist.
It's like the sun, just talking about the sun, though. We might not know what it is or how far away it is, but we do know it's a measurement of our time. It gives us our seasons. It's a giver of life and also a taker of life. And that's what we do know.
So 6,000 years and nothing's been done. Good luck, Nathan.
So if you...
Well, no, that's why I put the qualifier on it, Neil. And I said if you're a heliocentrist, you never will.
Exactly. You'll never manipulate the gas lamp in Narnia, because it isn't real. Likewise, a burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum when describing the sun in the sky isn't real either. So you'll never be able to verify and vary that. However, to assert to me, because your religion states that it's been that way for 6,000 years or whatever you describe, doesn't take away the nasty taste in my mouth. Okay, to date, nobody's been capable of varying and manipulating a cause of the phenomena we call the sun. Does it mean we can't? I'm not going to say that, but you are very determined in your...
Okay, Nimrod, build your tower.
Nobody's backing me up in this, I can see it. No, it's stony silence from people who don't agree. Okay, fine.
What?
No,
what are we talking
about? I understand what you're saying, Nathan. I don't really see how we could ever be, how we would ever be allowed the knowledge to get to the point of being able to vary and manipulate the sun, moon, and stars. I think that kind of knowledge would be kept from us for our own safety. But that doesn't mean that I can make the positive statement that it could never happen.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I was looking for. Is it was Brian that said it initially? Yeah, exactly, Brian. Thank you.
Right. We could potentially figure it out ourselves, or even stumble upon it by accident somehow. We don't know.
Better men have tried and failed.
But no, how do you know that better?
Yeah. So what?
Nimrod built a tower.
And Icarus.
That's an appeal to the past
maybe
fallacy.
We don't need to build a tower to do
Hold
it.
on. That's an appeal to the past fallacy.
Shouldn't we have historic standards being employed at this point?
No, I mean, it doesn't matter even if it is true history.
Radio.
It's an appeal to the
radio
past.
technology now, right? Big difference. I don't think there was ever radio communication technology in the past. We can even use that stuff now to, like, fry things at a distance. Okay, so if we can do that, why would you assume that we wouldn't be able to figure out somehow how to manipulate the celestial light effects?
Never gonna happen.
Never. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you know that, Prophet.
Exactly. With that heated discussion in tow, we're going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. But if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. There's also a super thanks button that now appears below these videos if you want to thank me and the show, so to speak, for the material, then you can smash the super thanks button. Thanks in advance to anybody who does. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on the Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
You're not old, man.
disgusting
And I don't
thing
give
you
a
do,
fuck
Arwen.
if you don't like it.
Hey,
What's
chill
on
out.
record?
No need for that.
People out.
What's on record, Arwen, is your chat.
Yeah, it's on record that you lied. Yeah,
No, I didn't lie.
Yeah, you red herring the argument,
I
and
did
then
not
when I
do
faced
anything
you
of
with
the
it,
sort.
you said you weren't having an argument like a coward.
Stop, both of you, please.
Down. No, I'm
10th and
pissed off
Arwen,
because
please.
you're a
Number
coward
one,
and a
stop,
liar, Dan.
please. I beg
You're
of
a
you.
petty
Arwen
liar,
and 10th.
and you keep doing this to
Arwen
me.
and
Take your
10th.
medicine, Arwen.
Hello. Right, number one.
I'm done with this
Arwen.
guy.
You're a petty liar.
Hello. Number one.
There you go again.
Arwen, please,
Yeah,
can you...
petty liar.
Arwen, back off your mic. A couple of inches. Take a breath. Have the discussion. Let the other one respond so we can actually enjoy your disdain for one another. Thank you.
Nathan, did the Adam Meakin cause all this?
No, not at all.
That's funny, Nathan.
Adam, are you there by any chance?
You're ruining this, Anthony, by the way.
I know, because I just feel like an intersection is necessary at the moment.
Agreed.
Thank you, Anthony. Talking to Arwen. I'm not going to talk to this guy.
Yeah, Adam.
Yes, let me just deal with that, Anthony.
Listen,
please,
you don't have
let me
to-
just deal with that, actually, 10th. Yeah, Arwen, please don't talk to 10th like that. There's really no need. Leave the live show, open the after show with you verbally abusing 10th. There's no need for it.
Nathan,
Well,
could I make...
then you make him stop red herring and
I will.
rumpusing me.
I will.
And then saying we weren't having an argument like a petty liar.
I will.
Yeah, you address him for
Everybody
that,
stop.
Nathan.
Everybody stop.
Because if you don't, then I will.
I will,
I
Arwen.
didn't say
I
that.
will, but while it's under control, you're a bit calmer. So take 25 seconds while Anthony gives you the opportunity to. Then the conversation can resume with you a bit calmer and your points coming across. And I will stop 10th from rumpusing you, I assure you. But it doesn't change that you're so angry that you're screaming verbal abuse at him. That's what's happening.
It's just a request for a short after show today. If we can catch it up another day, that'd be great. But if we can have a short one, because I want to share stuff with you guys that, whilst I've got the house to myself, because I'm not going to be in privacy for much longer. So, like, if we can have a short one, Nathan, that'd be great.
Told you already. Just go to the doctor. I don't want to see it.
I testified to the short after show.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, definitely. Please, God, save us from this.
Okay, I got a dumb globy brother, and he says, to an example for me, he says, if we grab a cue ball, from pool, billiards, or snooker, whatever you guys call it, he says, if I zoom into it, there's a flat space there. So he says, I can put like a soda can, theoretically, I can put like a soda can on top of a big beach ball. And he goes, so the well is just like that. He said you just zoomed in. This is the scale, you know. He says you can lay a flat, you know, a soda can on a beach ball.
I don't understand this example. I mean, when you heard the example, did you say, yeah, I totally agree, therefore Earth's a ball?
No, I said you started with saying it's a ball, and I said my question was, how many sides does this ball have? He says no sides. So I said, there you go. But he says I can still sit it on top of that. And so he's trying to prove the globe model with
What's
that.
he sitting it
See,
on?
I can sit my...
What's he sitting it on?
He's sitting it on the ball.
Table?
On the ball.
What's sitting on the ball?
He says the world's a big beach ball because he can lay his soda on the top. And he says, see, it's flat enough to where we can sit on there.
Now that the billiard ball or snooker, the ball is sitting on something. What's it sitting on?
And I think the argument the guy's trying to explain is that the justification is it's still a ball even though it seems flat. And it's flat enough for me to put a soda can on top of a beach ball and still have it be upright. Therefore, you know, you can stand on top of a ball that's a giant Earth and it would seem flat, but it's still a ball. It's just kind of explaining
that's
away.
what he's trying to say.
Yeah, he's trying to explain his own perception of it being flat away with the presupposition of it being a ball.
Swan, because Black Swan destroys that argument right there.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
the soda can is putting weight onto the beach ball, a little bit of weight onto the beach ball. So the surrounding at the bottom of the soda can, you're going to have an edge surrounding, and it won't be flat at the bottom of the soda can.
That's correct.
We'll have a curve underneath it.
Well,
so when you put that on that weight,
I would refer him.
I would
refer him to one's next poem.
Guys, can you hear Brian talking?
The weight of the soda can is pushing down into the air-filled beach ball. Beach balls are filled with air. This is unbelievably stupid. I mean,
no, it makes sense because he can put the soda can there. So he proves, you know, he says, see, it's flat enough. He says the only thing is the scale of it. You know, we have a cue ball and the Earth. You know, the scale is much bigger.
So read between the lines.
So I can put a big house.
Read between the lines. He's saying it's flat enough. So cognitively, he's justifying his own belief in why it's so flat and explaining it away after assuming it's a sphere.
Yes, but it's flat enough, he says. And I told him that. I said, don't give me my win. Don't give me the win that easy. I told him, you know, you're supposed to prove it's flat. He says, no, all I'm proving is that something flat can sit on something round.
Yeah,
may I interject, please? May I interject, please? Black Swan says it's not round enough.
Yeah, the Black Swan is one way to overcome his presupposition in the first instance, but he's explaining away his presupposition when he's experiencing it flat. That's how I read what you're describing to me.
No, you're right. You're right, because I shut him down with that. You know, I said, hey, how many flat surfaces does it have? He says, none. He says, but it can still sit there. So he goes, so that's how I think the globe works, he said.
Or how the world can appear flat,
it.
or how it can appear flat to him and still be a globe in his belief. And you were right to say, don't give me that win, because when you're saying well, it's flat enough, that's him conceding how flat it is. So you were absolutely right in your approach to it when you're like, don't give me the win. But you're looking for affirmation that when you took that attitude, you were right.
Proof.
You were just
he has evidence proof that he can learn it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're looking for affirmation that you took the right tact with him, I assume.
Yes, just trying to. Well, I mean, the thing is, he can prove it. You know, he grab a beach ball and he set it down and go, see, that's how the Earth works. He goes, pretend this is the house, this is the U.S. continent or whatever, and he goes, see, we're sitting right there, but it's still a big ball.
So
that's
at its heart,
it's in black when you zoom in.
So at its heart, it's a begging the question fallacy. If I say, imagine this banana shape is Earth, and then I justify how it can work and how the banana's flat enough, I've started with the presupposition that Earth's a banana. Producing a banana and balancing a soda can on it, because Earth's a banana, is just a begging the question turned into an affirming the consequent fallacy. So if Earth is like beach ball, begging the question fallacy, then you can still balance a soda can on it. It's flat enough. Check it out. I've balanced my soda can on it. It's flat enough. Therefore, it's a globe. It's a very pretty poor affirming the consequent after begging the question.
It worked at a family function with 20 people around. They said, "Yeah, see, the beach balls aglow." He sat the house, which being a can of soda, on top of the thing. So it convinced. Yeah, to me, he's saying he was right. He's saying, "See, it could still sit on top, even though it's a globe."
What he demonstrated was that everybody in the room automatically had the same presupposition that he laid down in his first premise. So when he said, if Earth is beach ball, before moving on, he's already won his argument when everybody in the room, when he says, okay, does everybody around me understand that Earth is the shape of this beach ball? He doesn't lay it out that way, but the moment he makes
you'll win that argument, Nathan. You will not win that argument of saying Earth is a beach ball, and everyone, they'll agree. They'll take the right which and say, okay, this beach ball is Earth. They'll play along like that.
He did Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, so at that point he's won, because he's begged the question successfully and everyone around him's nodded. He didn't need the rest. He didn't need the rest.
Nathan, can I...
Go on.
Nathan,
so he hypnotized the room before we even got started.
No, he begged the question and everyone begged the question with him, because everybody in the Western world automatically assumes that they're on a sphere. So if you make any affirming the consequent examples that beg the question of Earth being a sphere, and in this instance you hold up a beach ball and say, this is Earth, everyone agree? Well, at that point, everyone agrees Earth's a sphere-shaped entity, because they've all nodded when he said, is Earth like this ball? You all agree? Therefore, I'm going to talk shit for the next 2 minutes about any old nonsense, and we've already all agreed that it's this ball.
You're absolutely right, Nathan.
Or you would say on a ball it would be like this.
Disarm
That's
that.
also
We're not going to have a two-way conversation, I'm afraid, my friend.
Can I say something? He did it.
Four-way, five-way only, it seems.
Hey, can I rebuttal to Nathan here?
Yeah, it's you having the conversation.
Okay, yeah. So how do you think you win that, Nathan? Just shutting it down, saying, hold up, Earth is not a beach ball. But everyone says, well, as an example. That's what they would yell out to me, as an example.
Right, it's a begging the question fallacy at its heart. That's how I would deal with it. And when you have to explain what begging the question is, i.e. assuming the premise that you're trying to prove in the first instance, when we held up the beach ball, we're all assuming that premise is true immediately. That's begging the question. Circular reasoning. Well, when you explain that to a group of 20 family members, there's a reasonable chance that 25 to 30% of them will immediately glaze over. Another 25% won't be listening to the conversation at all because they don't care, and so on.
All right, so how would you have handled this, Nathan?
Broken it down in the fallacy as what it is. I'd have taken I'd wait for the example to come and then say, okay, in the first instance, you've assumed your outcome and everyone agreed with you. You begged the question of Earth being a sphere when you held up the beach ball.
So already I was in Narnia before I even knew it.
Yeah, the moment he held up the beach ball, everyone was in Narnia with him.
That's why I said he did it Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Right. If you start on a ball, it would be like this. You're drawing them in immediately onto assuming what it's like on a ball. So you got them.
Well, unfortunately, he came away looking like the smarter person, saying, it's just an example. Everyone was screaming at me, it's just an example. The beach ball is the Earth. It's just an example. This is how it works. And then I said, but there's no sides to it. Then he goes, but it's flat enough. Look, it's sitting right there. And he goes, ooh.
Yeah,
Nathan, can I chime in for a second?
My advice would be go and literally, you personally, go and read begging the question fallacy, type it into Google and read 2 or 3 of the results, and you'll realise very quickly that almost every single claim to be globe proof starts with Earth being a sphere. Go on, whoever it was.
Nathan, may I chime in for a sec?
I think if that guy's done.
No, yeah, I'm done. Thank you, Nathan.
No worries.
Nathan, thank you. This is my first time with your show. I had a friend from UK on Facebook say that you're great and I should listen to you. So thank you.
He's definitely right.
If you, well, I don't disagree. If you take that same beach ball and you put a soda can on top and you glue or tape that soda can to the very top of that beach ball, if you turn that beach ball at 90 degrees, that soda can is no longer straight up. And if you take it, another 90 degrees and make it 180 degrees from where you started, then it's upside down. So people who believe in this spinning, watery, curvy, bendy ball believe that, you know, something that's stuck on top of a beach ball, if you turn it at 90 degrees, it will stay straight up. No, it will be at 90 degrees. And if you turn it all the way around to the bottom, that it will still be standing up. No, it will be upside down. So if somebody's telling you that, yes, you know, it looks flat when it's on the top of the beach ball, but what's it look like when it's at 90 degrees? What's it look like when it's at 180 degrees? Then that's the way you can get those 20 family members or 20 people, whatever, to say, maybe we don't live on a spinning, watery, curvy, bendy ball. Thanks, Nathan.
I doubt it. I doubt that will work because that's a very old approach. You're basically saying, oh, this gravity doesn't make sense to me. Well, we were talking about the geometry of the ball and like with the can on top of it. Oh, look, see, it's flat. Well, guess what? A can and a coffee mug, they're not perfectly flat-bottomed. They're actually rings with indentation. So, yeah, that'll actually fit on a ball, right? Because it's a ring. It can sit very easily on there. If it is a perfect flat surface, it's not going to sit very easily on that ball.
Okay.
So it's kind of a trick.
Thank you. So what you're trying to say is that when people assume the term is antipodal positioning, i.e. what you described as being upside down from the position you started, that is the essence of the begging the question fallacy that the guy described before. So when the guy holds up the beach ball, there is a natural assumption that your position is antipode from another piece of land that's on the opposite side of that ball. So when the guy's brother holds up the beach ball or the basketball or whatever ball it is and says, everyone agree, he doesn't, I'm paraphrasing, everyone agree that we all now assume that we're on this shape here I'm holding up, and they all go, yes, then they are all assuming that, like he described with a can taped to the top and then the side and then the bottom, that there are people antipodal from the position that you're standing now. Assuming that on the globe model there is a piece of land antipodal from where you are. But if there were, then there's people, quote-unquote, upside down from your position, or antipodal from your position. But once you've held up the ball and they all nod, then they are accepting that presupposition that there are people hanging off the bottom of your position antipodal from where you are. So it does link in quite nicely to the guy's description before. Arwin's not incorrect, though, in terms of where we are in this little discussion that we have on Flat Earth debate, because we've advanced beyond that. I'm not going to decry what Arwin's saying, but it does actually tie in nicely to that premise that is presupposed in an affirming the consequent begging the question fallacy when you've got a beach ball and how it's flat enough for a Coke can to sit on it. And yeah, that is the assumption that people are upside down from your position, as you phrase it.
Yeah, I've seen gravity. I've seen gravity being invented by whoever you want to say invented it, you know, Newton or whatever. That, you know, gravity explains why people in water don't fall off the side and the bottom of a spinning, watery, curvy, bendy ball. Spinning at 1,039 miles per hour at the equator, and that's the only reason gravity exists, because density and buoyancy can explain everything. And we just got to throw away gravity just to explain that, you know, that we live on a spinning, you know, bendy, curvy ball, which we don't, obviously. Thanks, Nathan.
To which you reply,
well, how does gravity do that?
Sorry.
No, that's not the reply. The reply is be careful with the word buoyancy, because that requires gravity to work.
That's not the reply either.
Yeah, it is.
No, the correct reply is, what's gravity?
That's what I asked.
I know, you got the right answer, Arwin. But we all know you're ace also. Can you start swearing at tense again? Have you calmed down enough?
I just wanted the guy to realise the word buoyancy is a key word.
Yeah, you're correct also in that regard. But the correct response at this point, when somebody says, no, you've got gravity holding people onto the side of the ball, that's why we have antipodal positioning. Don't you know what gravity is? Are you gravity? And you would say, okay, well, in his response, he claimed he would describe buoyancy. That word came up, and you're rightly saying no. When you look at the definition of buoyancy, it's intrinsically tied to gravity. Therefore, although it's... We're not going to get back into the discussion that we had yesterday in terms of where it's come from in an etymological structure. What it's currently defined as uses gravity. That's just how it is. So you've got to be careful about using those particular words. However, the actual response when someone throws that at you, well, gravity is the reason we have antipodal positioning. The next question that should be off anybody's lips is, oh yeah, what's that? What is gravity? Get them to tell you what it is.
Plus, if they're holding a ball up, just ask them how the radius was measured using an angle.
That's pretty advanced stuff.
I think in a lot of ways, when Henry David Thoreau, did on Golden's Pond, and his big 3 words that he used was simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. When you talk to the masses, when you talk to the newbies or the people that are totally asleep, simplicity, simplicity, simplicity is the only way you can really start with them. So obviously I look at a ball and I go, well, let's turn 90 degrees, let's turn 180 degrees, and let's see what the person looks like when you turn it 90 and 180. And you have to go to the lowest common denominator with people, then to sometimes even open their eyes a little bit, because it's like, the eyes are useless if the mind is blind. And people's minds are totally closed, so the only way to open them is one little step at a time, and oftentimes it has to be simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. Thanks.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the thanks button, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!